On her birthday, Evelyn endured a painful celebration as her family showed coldness and played a cruel joke on her. As a widow, she decided to stand up and fight to protect the love and legacy she deserved. From these deep wounds, Evelyn began a journey of forgiveness and self-discovery, opening a completely new chapter in her life. Before we dive into her story, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Hearing from people around the world makes these stories even more powerful and reminds us how connected we all are. The April rain tapped softly against the window pane as Evelyn Parker stood in her cozy kitchen, preparing her morning cup of tea. Bath had always been generous with its spring rains, especially this time of year when the soft gray skies seemed to share their moisture with the ancient city below. The droplets traced delicate patterns on the glass, drifting slowly downward like silent whispers of a past she often found herself revisiting. Evelyn's hands moved methodically, pouring hot water over the Earl Grey leaves, the familiar scent curling into the air. It was a simple ritual, one she had cherished through the Decadiza moment of quiet in a life that had grown increasingly solitary. She glanced at the calendar on the wall, the date circled in faded red ink. April 14th, her 68th birthday, just 3 days away. For 40 years, Evelyn had taught mathematics at the local high school, sharing her love for numbers and logic with generations of students. She'd always found beauty in the patterns and the certainty, the way one equation could unlock a world of understanding. Now retired, those classrooms were memories, and the silence of her home was often broken only by the ticking of the old clock in the hallway. This morning, as she sat by the window with her tea cooling beside her, Evelyn's thoughts drifted to the upcoming birthday. Would anyone come to celebrate with her? The question hung in the air heavier than the spring mist outside. Her son, David, his wife Angela, and her 2 grandchildren Emma and Liam had become distant figures over the past years. Visits were rare, and when they did come, the warmth she once took for granted had chilled into formality, almost an obligation rather than affection. Her phone rang, startling her from her reverie. The number was unfamiliar, but at her age, every call carried weight. She answered gently. "Hello, Mrs. Parker? This is Patricia from Bath Glamour Salon. I'm calling to confirm your appointment for tomorrow at 10 a.m. The voice was crisp and professional. Evelyn blinked in surprise. She hadn't made such an appointment. But perhaps, she thought, a small change might do her good before the birthday she wasn't sure she wanted to face alone. Yes, thank you. I'll be there. Later that day, Evelyn stood before her closet, sifting through her clothes. Most were practical and modest, the kind a mathematics teacher would wear without fuss. But tucked away in the corner was a blue dress, a gift from her late husband, Robert. "To match your eyes," he'd said with a smile decades ago. She held it up to the mirror, catching a glimpse of the woman reflected back, silver hair framing soft but lined features, eyes still a clear, steady blue. Robert had passed away 10 years earlier, a sudden heart attack that left Evelyn alone to face the quiet house filled with memories. There were moments when his absence felt like yesterday, and others when it felt like a lifetime. Yet, she talked to him often, especially when loneliness crept in. "What do you think, Robert? Will they come for my birthday?" Her son David was 42 now, a man she had once cradled and guided through childhood. Those days felt far away, the late nights helping with homework, cheering from the sidelines at football games, the bedtime stories, and quiet laughter. But things changed during his teenage years. David drifted toward friends she didn't know. Grades slipped, and a stubborn pride built walls between them. College seemed to help him grow up, and when he met Angela at the insurance company, Evelyn hoped for a new chapter. The wedding was grand, with 200 guests, many strangers to Evelyn. Angela made it clear from the start that David's family was now her family. After Robert's passing, the distance grew wider. David visited briefly after the funeral, then retreated into his busy life. Calls became infrequent, and birthdays passed with nothing more than a brief text from Angela, full of excuses and schedules. On one such birthday last year, Evelyn received only a curt message. "Happy birthday, Evelyn. David's in meetings and the kids are busy. We'll try to catch up soon. No call, no visit, just words typed and sent without warmth." The rain outside had grown heavier, drumming relentlessly as Evelyn set aside the message and began cleaning the house to keep her mind occupied. She dusted, vacuumed, and wiped the windows until they sparkled a small act of order in a life that felt increasingly uncertain. Then, a knock at the door startled her. It was Grace Mitchell, her neighbor and one of the few true friends left. Grace, 70, carried a steaming container. "I figured you might not want to cook today," she said with a smile. "Chicken soup. My grandmother's recipe." Grateful, Evelyn invited her in. They sat together, sipping tea and nibbling on cookies Evelyn had baked the day before. "Have you decided how you'll celebrate your birthday?" Grace asked gently. "I hope with family," Evelyn replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Grace squeezed her hand. "You've given them too much to take for granted. Sometimes, we have to remind people who we are." Later, standing by the window, Evelyn watched Grace cross the street under her umbrella. The words settled deep inside her. Perhaps it was time to stop waiting. That evening, Evelyn dialed David's number. It rang twice before his voice came through, tinged with impatience. "Mom? What's up?" Trying to sound calm, she replied. "I just wanted to remind you my birthday is Friday. Maybe you, Angela, and the kids could stop by." There was a pause, then muffled voices. Finally, David answered. "Friday's packed. Maybe the weekend." "Okay," she said, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I'll look forward to it." For the first time in a long while, Evelyn felt a flicker of hope. She decided to prepare a simple dinner eggplant lasagna, David's childhood favorite, with chocolate pecan cake for dessert. The days leading up to the birthday were filled with quiet preparations. Evelyn went to the salon, letting the stylist brighten her natural silver hair. She purchased a new sky blue blouse, something Robert would have liked. She smiled to herself. Grace visited often, helping clean and keeping Evelyn's spirits lifted. They talked about starting a small volunteer group for local children in Bath, a project Evelyn had always dreamed of but never pursued. When the day came, Evelyn set the table with her best china, placed a fresh bouquet of spring flowers in the center, and waited. At 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Evelyn straightened her blouse, took a deep breath, and opened the door. David was there, looking uncomfortable, his expensive cologne faint but unmistakable. Angela followed, her expression polite but distant. Emma barely glanced up from her phone, and Liam shuffled behind, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Happy birthday, Mom," David muttered, barely touching her shoulder. Inside, the atmosphere was stiff. Conversations were sparse, the grandchildren distracted, Angela preoccupied with her phone. Evelyn served the lasagna, forcing smiles as she tried to engage. Then came the gift. Angela handed Evelyn a small box, wrapped neatly. Evelyn's fingers trembled slightly as she untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside nothing. An empty box. A cruel, mocking laughter erupted around the room. Evelyn sat frozen, clutching the hollow box as the words empty and worthless echoed in her mind. Her family's coldness was laid bare in a moment, meant to celebrate her. Yet, beneath the pain, a quiet strength began to grow. That night, Evelyn sat alone, tears flowing freely. But somewhere deep inside, a resolve took root. She was no longer willing to be invisible, to be disrespected, or to be forgotten. With Grace's support, Evelyn would seek justice, reclaim her dignity, and find a new path on where her worth was defined not by others, but by herself. This was only the beginning of her journey. If you're still watching, comment one so I know you're still with me. The morning after the bitter birthday party, Evelyn woke up with a mixture of heartbreak and awakening. The house was quiet. Every memory with Robert, every family photo now markers reminding her of a love gone by and a life forgotten. But today, something inside her had changed. The empty box that Angela and David had given still lay on the table, a symbol emptier than the gift inside. Evelyn stared into the void where all warmth seemed to have vanished. It was time to stop enduring and decide on a different future for herself. With Grace's help, she sought out a well-known law office in downtown Bath, where Michael Reed, a courteous and understanding gentleman, awaited to hear her story. Every step along the ancient cobblestone streets made Evelyn deeply feel the truth of a life both aged and full of hidden strength. In the meeting, Evelyn shared openly every pain from the hurt of being ignored by her family to suspicions about greed clouding love. Mr. Reed listened carefully, each story unfolding like the low notes in the melody of her life. He explained that the legacy Robert left included an old lakeside home, investments, and stocks worth millions of pounds, but only a small portion had been disclosed to David. This secrecy was Robert's wish to have David mature and become independent, protecting him from the corrupting influence of money. However, given David's growing distance and disrespect, Evelyn had been reconsidering revising the will. Evelyn admitted to herself that she could no longer bear the cruel jokes and coldness from her family. She decided to do something she never dared to before: revoke David's inheritance rights and redirect the assets to charities, the local library, and a scholarship fund for engineering students Robert's passion during his lifetime. Michael Reed nodded in agreement, emphasizing that legally Evelyn had full authority and he would assist in preparing all necessary documents to ensure her wishes were carried out, including protective clauses to prevent future legal disputes. He also advised Evelyn to have a health check and certification of capacity to avoid unnecessary conflicts. Leaving the lawyer's office, Evelyn felt an unprecedented relief. She knew a long and difficult road lay ahead, but this was the first step to reclaiming her voice and her right to control her life. She was no longer the forgotten woman, but one who would confidently stand on her own 2 feet. At home, Grace waited with a cup of tea and a comforting smile. The two sat by the window, watching the gentle rain fall on Bath's historic cobbled streets, talking about the future and new plans. Evelyn shared her desire to volunteer to help underprivileged children with Grace, part of her journey to find meaning and new joy. In the following days, Evelyn began preparations for major changes, clearing out unnecessary belongings, contacting real estate agents to sell the lakeside home, Robert's dream piece of land. She also quietly planned a dinner, a final invitation to her family, but this time to announce the new will and set clear boundaries. However, Evelyn's peace was short-lived. Calls from David became more frequent, filled with blame but also pleas for forgiveness and reconciliation. Angela continuously intervened, trying to persuade Evelyn to keep the assets for their son. Tensions escalated, but Evelyn firmly maintained her position, understanding that this was not just about money but a lesson in respect and self-worth. One spring afternoon, as the sunlight faded and a gentle breeze stirred the ancient trees, Evelyn received an unexpected letter from Emma, her 16-year-old granddaughter whom she had thought most distant. The letter contained a sincere apology and a desire to reconnect, a faint hope in the darkness of her family. Evelyn read the heartfelt words over and over, tears quietly streaming down her cheeks. She knew forgiveness was the greatest power to heal a wounded heart, but it also required wisdom to set healthy boundaries and protect herself from further harm. As the sun began to set on the horizon, Evelyn clearly felt she was ready for a new beginning. Life in Bath, with its tree-lined streets, cozy cafes, and the support of close friends like Grace, awaited her to step into the next chapter, one of freedom, unconditional love, and renewal. The following days passed in busy preparation, but also full of determination for Evelyn. The lakeside house that had once been Robert's dream was now being cleaned from every corner, every little keepsake they had once cherished. Evelyn called the real estate agent, scheduled meetings with the lawyer to sign necessary documents. She knew this decision was not just a personal turning point, but a clear message to her family. She was no longer the silent woman who endured. Then, the day of the final dinner party arrived, an event Evelyn had carefully planned, not only to celebrate a new chapter in her life, but also to stage a revelation of truth, putting her family before the choices they needed to face. The guests were only David, Angela, and the 2 children, Emma and Luke, alongside Grace, the loyal friend who had stood by Evelyn throughout her recent hardships. The atmosphere in the house was formal, with carefully arranged fine china, crystal glasses, and fresh flowers tastefully placed on the table. The food consisted of Robert's favorite dishes, prepared with Evelyn's dedication and love. When David and his family arrived, their cold glances and annoyed expressions could not hide their surprise and suspicion. Angela glanced around the room with a flicker of complaint in her eyes. Emma stared at her phone, detached as if unwilling to join the conversation. Luke appeared tense, awkwardly trying to avoid the gathering. Evelyn greeted them with a resolute smile. She invited them to sit and began with casual conversation asking about work. School then gently moved to the main topic. She recounted everything that had happened, from the empty box on her birthday, the cruel words, to the years of coldness. She spoke calmly, with strength, making everyone fall silent and listen. David tried to interrupt, asking her not to make a big deal out of it, saying it was just a family joke and they had no intention of hurting her. Angela jumped in, promising they would change, that they wanted to fix their relationship. But Evelyn would not be swayed by such words. She announced her decision to revoke David's inheritance rights and transfer all assets to charities, the library, and a scholarship fund, places she believed Robert would have wanted. The living room grew heavy with David and Angela's stunned and confused expressions. Emma finally looked away from her phone, gazing at her grandmother with eyes full of surprise and some shame. Luke stayed silent, bowing his head, as if realizing that tonight's gathering was unlike any other family reunion before. A fierce argument erupted between Evelyn and David. David shouted, accusing her of selfishness and destroying the family, while Evelyn responded with firm and sincere words about love, respect, and dignity. She emphasized that no amount of money could compensate for the long-lasting wounds and neglect. Angela, although trying to stay calm, could not hide her anger, criticizing Evelyn for driving the family apart. Emma and Luke stood frightened on the sidelines, too scared to intervene. Everything was like a violent wave crashing ashore, breaking the false shell of familial affection. At that moment, Grace stood up in support of Evelyn, reminding everyone that family ties should never be exchanged for selfishness or greed. She spoke of the resilience and kindness Evelyn had shown through the difficult times, softening the atmosphere a bit, though the wounds remained unhealed. The party ended in tense silence. David and his family left without any promise for the future. Evelyn and Grace sat together, feeling a mixture of relief and pain, but also the liberation Evelyn had longed for. That night, as the lights in the living room dimmed, Evelyn sat by the window overlooking the calm lake, her heart peaceful. She understood that this was not an end but a new beginning, not only for herself but for the family, even if it meant greater distance between them. But above all, she had chosen freedom, respect, and genuine love for herself. If you're still watching, comment 1 so I know you're still with me. The days that followed were filled with a strange mix of solitude and newfound clarity for Evelyn. She began to embrace her new life with a sense of cautious optimism, feeling both the weight of loss and the thrill of liberation. Each morning, she woke to the gentle sounds of the lake, the soft ripple of water against the shore, the distant calls of birds, and the whisper of the wind through the trees. These small moments of peace became her sanctuary. She dedicated herself to volunteering at the local library and community center, finding joy in helping others and rediscovering a purpose beyond her past family struggles. Her friendship with Grace deepened, their daily walks through Bath's cobbled streets filled with laughter and shared stories. Evelyn even enrolled in an art class, something she had postponed for years, allowing herself to explore creativity she had long suppressed. Yet, the shadows of her past still lingered. Phone calls from David were infrequent but loaded with tension, alternating between attempts at reconciliation and veiled demands. Angela's messages vacillated between apology and manipulation. Evelyn responded politely but firmly, protecting her peace above all. One spring afternoon, as sunlight filtered softly through the blooming cherry blossoms, Evelyn received a letter. It was from Emma. The handwriting was hesitant but sincere. The letter spoke of regret, understanding, and a desire to rebuild the bridge they had burned. Evelyn read it slowly, feeling a tear escape her eye, a tear not of pain, but of hope. She knew forgiveness would be a journey, not a destination. And with the strength she had gathered, Evelyn was ready to walk that path, not for others, but for herself. As spring gave way to summer, Evelyn's life blossomed in ways she hadn't imagined possible. Her new home in Bath became a haven of peace and renewal. She filled her days with simple pleasures, gardening on the small terrace, savoring morning coffee while watching the sunrise over the lake, and sharing quiet dinners with Grace. Each moment was a step further away from the shadows of her past. Her art class flourished, and Evelyn found herself pouring emotions onto the canvas colors and shapes expressing the complex tapestry of her journey. The instructor, a gentle soul named Helen, encouraged her to embrace vulnerability and transformation. Through painting, Evelyn began to see her story not as a series of losses, but as a testament to resilience and hope. Meanwhile, tentative contact with Emma grew into occasional visits. The young girl, shy but earnest, seemed eager to rebuild what had been broken. They shared afternoons in the garden, tending to flowers and talking about dreams and fears. Evelyn treasured these moments, recognizing them as the fragile beginnings of healing. However, not all was smooth. David's occasional calls sometimes reopened old wounds, his voice tinged with frustration or false regret. Angela's messages sometimes tried to undermine Evelyn's confidence, reminding her of what she had lost. But Evelyn had grown stronger. She set clear boundaries, refusing to be drawn into drama or manipulation. One evening, during a community event at the local library, Evelyn was invited to speak about her experiences. Standing before a room of attentive listeners, many older and some younger, she shared her story, the pain, the betrayal, the courage to reclaim her life, and the power of forgiveness. Her words resonated deeply, sparking conversations about dignity, family, and self-worth. That night, as she returned home under a starlit sky, Evelyn felt a profound sense of purpose. She was no longer defined by her past, nor by others' judgments. She was an author of her own story, a woman who had found light even in the darkest hours. Summer deepened, and with it came a renewed sense of confidence and belonging for Evelyn. The community around her embraced her presence. Neighbors greeted her warmly on their morning walks, and local shopkeepers started recognizing her name and face. The small acts of kindness became threads weaving a new tapestry of connection and support. Evelyn found particular joy in mentoring young women at the community center, sharing not only practical advice but also stories of resilience and self-respect. Her experiences became lessons, inspiring others to stand tall in the face of adversity. She reveled in this role, discovering a sense of purpose that had long eluded her. Meanwhile, Emma's visits grew more frequent, their relationship blossoming beyond mere reconciliation. They shared laughter, tears, and hopes for the future. Evelyn saw in Emma the promise of healing, and in their bond, a chance to rewrite the family story with compassion rather than pain. Yet, the path was not without its hurdles. One afternoon, a heated phone call from David reminded Evelyn that not everyone was ready to embrace change. His voice was sharp, accusing, filled with bitterness over the altered inheritance. Evelyn listened calmly, standing firm in her decisions. She understood his anger was more about loss of control than genuine hurt. Angela's interference continued, though now less frequent, as Evelyn's resolve deterred her manipulations. The distance between Evelyn and her former family solidified into a healthy boundary, allowing her to nurture her own well-being without the weight of past grievances. One evening, under the soft glow of candlelight, Evelyn sat with Grace and Michael Reed, discussing plans for the scholarship fund in Robert's memory. They spoke of honoring his legacy through education and opportunity, planting seeds for futures yet to be realized. That night, Evelyn felt a profound peace. The scars of betrayal remained, but they no longer defined her. She was a woman reborn, grounded in dignity, buoyed by forgiveness, and propelled by hope. The arrival of autumn brought a crispness to the air that matched Evelyn's own clarity of purpose. The soft amber light filtering through the trees seemed to illuminate not only the world around her but also the path she was carving out for herself. Her days were filled with a comforting routine, yet each moment carried the promise of something new, a fresh leaf turned in the book of her life. Evelyn's mornings often began with a walk along the cobblestone streets of Bath, the sound of her footsteps mingling with the gentle rustle of fallen leaves. She'd pause at the little cafe on the corner where the barista knew her by name and always prepared her favorite chai latte just so. The warmth of the cup in her hands was a small but significant reminder that life could be tender, even after hardship. Her garden, though modest, flourished under her care. Vibrant chrysanthemums and asters bloomed in late October, their colors a striking contrast against the gray skies. Tending to her plants became a metaphor for her own growth. Patient, steady, and mindful. Each sprout breaking through the soil was a testament to resilience, each blossom a celebration of survival. The community center remained a hub of her activity. Evelyn took on a more prominent role, leading workshops on self-empowerment and emotional well-being. She spoke openly about the challenges she had faced, the pain of familial estrangement, and the courage it took to reclaim one's identity. Her vulnerability was met with gratitude and admiration. She became a beacon for others navigating their own storms. One particular workshop, held on a rainy Wednesday afternoon, stood out. A young woman named Clara approached Evelyn afterward, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Clara shared her story of hardship, a toxic family environment, years of neglect, and a struggle to find self-worth. Evelyn listened intently, offering words of encouragement and practical advice. They exchanged numbers and began a friendship rooted in mutual healing. Meanwhile, Evelyn's relationship with Emma continued to deepen. The teenage girl was slowly shedding her former reticence, opening up about school, her interests, and her dreams of becoming a psychologist. Evelyn supported her wholeheartedly, sometimes helping with homework or simply offering a listening ear. Their bond was a balm for both, a bridge over the chasm that once divided their family. Yet, despite these bright spots, Evelyn was not untouched by the lingering echoes of her past. David's occasional calls still arrived, though less frequently and more measured in tone. Each conversation was a delicate dance of emotions, frustration, remorse, defensiveness, and sometimes a flicker of understanding. Evelyn navigated these interactions with grace, always steering the dialogue toward respect and boundaries. Angela's presence faded but never fully disappeared. At times, Evelyn would receive a card or a message that seemed to carry veiled criticism, a reminder of old wounds that refused to heal. But Evelyn had learned the art of letting go, choosing which battles to fight and which to release to the winds. Her focus was no longer on winning approval but on cultivating peace. One chilly evening, Evelyn was invited to speak at a local literary festival. The theme was Journeys of Transformation, and Evelyn's story resonated perfectly. Standing on the stage, bathed in soft light, she recounted her journey with a blend of honesty and hope. She spoke of loss and betrayal, but also of forgiveness and the power of self-love. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. After her talk, a woman approached, introducing herself as Margaret, a counselor specializing in family dynamics. They quickly connected, sharing thoughts on healing and rebuilding. Margaret offered to collaborate with Evelyn on a community project aimed at supporting elders facing family estrangement. Excited by the prospect, Evelyn agreed wholeheartedly. Back at home, Evelyn's evenings were quieter but no less meaningful. She and Grace often sat by the fireplace, sipping herbal tea and reflecting on the day. They talked about their hopes, their fears, and the unexpected joys that had blossomed from pain. Grace's friendship had become a cornerstone of Evelyn's new life, a testament to the healing power of companionship. One night, as autumn's chill seeped through the windows, Evelyn found herself writing a letter to David. It was not a letter of anger or accusation, but one of clarity and closure. She expressed her hope that one day he might understand the importance of respect and love beyond material inheritance. She reaffirmed her willingness to maintain a relationship, but only on terms that honored her dignity. Sealing the letter, Evelyn felt a sense of finality and freedom. It was a boundary drawn, not in bitterness but in self-respect. A declaration that her worth was not defined by others' acceptance, but by her own unwavering belief in herself. As the leaves turned gold and fell, Evelyn's life was in full autumnal bloom, rich, vibrant, and grounded in wisdom. She had transformed her pain into purpose, her loss into legacy, and her solitude into strength. If you're still watching, comment 1 so I know you're still with me. As autumn deepened, Evelyn found herself embracing a new rhythm of life, one that was less about what she had lost and more about what she was gaining. The mornings were quieter, but her heart was fuller. Each day offered small victories, a phone call from Clara checking in, a new bloom in the garden, or a shared laugh with Grace over a cup of tea. One morning, Evelyn received an unexpected invitation. It was from the Bath Historical Society, inviting her to participate in a panel discussion on the role of elders in community building. The invitation felt like an acknowledgement of her journey and the wisdom she had accumulated. She accepted without hesitation. The day of the panel arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The town hall was adorned with autumn wreaths, and the scent of cinnamon wafted through the air. Evelyn, dressed in a soft sweater and scarf, took her seat among fellow speakers. Her voice, steady and warm, carried her story of resilience and renewal to an attentive audience. During the Q&A session, a middle-aged man raised his hand. He spoke of his own struggles with aging parents and the challenges of balancing care and independence. Evelyn responded with compassion, emphasizing the importance of communication, empathy, and boundaries. Her words resonated deeply, sparking a lively conversation that extended well beyond the scheduled time. After the event, several attendees approached Evelyn, sharing their stories and expressing gratitude. Among them was a woman named Margaret, a social worker who specialized in elder care. They quickly formed a connection, discussing ways to collaborate on outreach programs that would provide support to isolated seniors. Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose igniting within her. Back at home, life settled into a comforting cadence. Evelyn and Grace organized regular meetups for their new circle of friends, sharing meals, stories, and laughter. These gatherings became a sanctuary where each person felt seen and valued. The pain of past betrayals softened in the glow of genuine connection. Emma continued to visit, sometimes bringing friends along, eager to share the warmth she found in her grandmother's home. Evelyn reveled in these moments, cherishing the opportunity to witness Emma's growth and transformation. Their bond was a testament to the healing power of forgiveness and time. One chilly evening, as Evelyn prepared dinner, her phone rang. It was David. Hesitant but sincere, he apologized for the hurt he had caused and expressed a desire to rebuild their relationship. Evelyn listened carefully, acknowledging his words without rushing to forgive or forget. She explained that healing was a journey and that she needed time to see consistent change. They agreed to start fresh, taking small steps toward reconciliation. Evelyn set clear boundaries, protecting her peace while allowing room for renewed connection. It was a delicate balance, but one that offered hope. Meanwhile, preparations for the sale of the lakeside property were underway. Evelyn met frequently with her real estate agent, discussing offers and inspecting potential buyers. The thought of letting go was bittersweet. The land held memories of Robert's dreams and their shared life, but it also represented the past she was ready to release. The proceeds from the sale were earmarked for the charities and scholarship fund Evelyn had established. She envisioned young minds inspired by Robert's passion for engineering, their futures brightened by opportunities she was proud to create. This legacy gave her a profound sense of fulfillment. Autumn gave way to winter, and with the first snowflakes falling gently over Bath, Evelyn found comfort in quiet moments by the fireplace. She often reflected on the tumultuous path that had brought her here, the pain, the courage, and ultimately, the grace. Through it all, she discovered that strength wasn't just about enduring hardship, but about choosing to rise above it with dignity and love. Evelyn was no longer defined by the wounds inflicted by others, but by the compassion she extended to herself and the world. As the year drew to a close, Evelyn penned a letter to Emma, encouraging her to pursue her dreams and reminding her that family was more than blood. It was about the bonds we nurture and the forgiveness we grant. She expressed hope for a future where they could walk together, healing old wounds and creating new memories. Evelyn's story became an inspiration to many in Bath and beyond, a testament to resilience, transformation, and the unyielding power of self-love. With each passing day, she embraced her new life with open arms, ready for whatever adventures lay ahead. The arrival of winter brought a reflective quietness to Bath, blanketing the town in soft snow and providing Evelyn with a serene backdrop to her evolving journey. The house felt warmer than ever, filled with the gentle hum of friendship and new beginnings. Evelyn found herself increasingly drawn into community activities. She volunteered at the local library, helping organize educational workshops for seniors and young adults alike. Her love for learning, once expressed through teaching mathematics, now blossomed into mentoring others, sharing not just knowledge but life wisdom earned through hardship and hope. Grace remained a steadfast companion, their friendship deepening with each shared cup of tea and long evening walks. They explored the winding streets of Bath, visited quaint cafes, and sometimes just sat quietly by the river, watching the reflection of winter skies dance on the water. One chilly afternoon, as Evelyn was arranging books in the library, she noticed a familiar face among the visitors: Margaret, the social worker she had met at the panel discussion. Margaret greeted her warmly, inviting Evelyn to collaborate on a new project aimed at reducing senior isolation in the area. Together, they crafted a program that paired volunteers with isolated seniors, fostering connections and providing much-needed companionship. Evelyn found this work deeply fulfilling, a way to transform her own experiences into meaningful action. It was as if each story of loneliness she had endured now fueled her desire to bring light to others. Meanwhile, her relationship with Emma continued to heal and grow. Emma often visited, sometimes bringing friends or homework for Evelyn to help with. They shared afternoons baking, reading, and talking about dreams for the future. Evelyn treasured these moments, feeling a renewed sense of family that transcended past wounds. David's attempts at reconciliation became more genuine over time. Though cautious, Evelyn allowed small steps, phone calls to check in, occasional meetings in neutral places, and heartfelt letters exchanged. She made clear her boundaries, ensuring that her peace and dignity were never compromised. During one such meeting at a cozy cafe, David spoke openly about his regrets and hopes. He acknowledged the mistakes, the distance, and the pain caused. Evelyn listened, not with immediate forgiveness, but with an open heart willing to understand. They agreed to take things slowly, rebuilding trust one day at a time. Amidst these personal developments, the sale of the lakeside property concluded successfully. Evelyn received the funds with a mixture of relief and solemnity, knowing the chapter it closed and the new path it opened. She ensured that the charitable foundations and scholarships were established according to her wishes, creating a legacy that honored Robert's passion and her own values. The holiday season approached with a different feeling this year. Instead of isolation or expectation, Evelyn embraced quiet celebrations with Grace and new friends. They shared meals, exchanged gifts, and reflected on the past year's growth. On Christmas Eve, Evelyn found herself at the community center, leading a storytelling night. Her voice, steady and full of warmth, recounted tales of courage, loss, and renewal, her story, and those of others who had overcome hardship. The room was filled with attentive listeners, their faces illuminated by candlelight and hope. Afterward, as snow fell softly outside, Evelyn stepped out and looked up at the stars. The journey had been long and often painful, but here she was, standing tall, surrounded by love and purpose. She whispered a silent thanks to Robert, to Grace, to Emma, and to herself. The new year dawned bright and promising. Evelyn planned to travel, explore new horizons, and continue her advocacy work. She envisioned a future where age was not a barrier but a testament to resilience and wisdom. Most importantly, Evelyn had reclaimed her story, no longer defined by betrayal or loss, but by the strength of her spirit and the love she chose to nurture. With the arrival of spring, Bath blossomed into a vibrant canvas of colors, mirroring the new chapter unfolding in Evelyn's life. The crisp air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the promise of renewal. Evelyn woke each morning with a sense of purpose, her heart lighter and her spirit stronger than it had been in years. She had settled comfortably into her new home, a charming cottage just a few blocks from the city center. The house was cozy and filled with sunlight, its garden beginning to flourish under her attentive care. Evelyn found joy in the simple rituals of life, tending to her roses, brewing a perfect cup of tea, and watching the world awaken outside her window. Her days were full, yet peaceful. The community had embraced her warmly, and she had become a familiar presence at local events and volunteer groups. The programs she had helped launch to combat senior isolation flourished, bringing smiles and companionship to many who had once felt forgotten. One afternoon, while organizing a book club meeting at the library, Evelyn received an unexpected message, an invitation from Emma to visit her university in San Diego. It was a gesture filled with hope and reconciliation, a bridge stretching across the years and the distance. Evelyn hesitated at first, but then embraced the opportunity. She packed lightly, the suitcase, a symbol of her readiness to step beyond the familiar and embrace new connections. The flight to California was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking, a journey not just in miles but in healing. At the university, Evelyn was greeted by Emma's bright smile and youthful energy. They toured the campus, shared meals, and spent hours in conversation not just about academics but about family, forgiveness, and dreams. Evelyn saw in Emma a young woman striving to understand the complexities of human relationships and the power of empathy. Their time together was a balm to Evelyn's soul. She felt the wounds of the past soften and a quiet pride swell within her. She realized that though the family she once knew had fractured, new bonds could be forged through patience, understanding, and love. Returning to Bath, Evelyn carried with her a renewed sense of hope. She knew the road ahead might still hold challenges, but she was no longer alone. Her life was rich with friendships, purpose, and the enduring strength that comes from embracing one's own worth. As the sun set over the rolling hills, Evelyn sat on her porch with Grace by her side. They toasted to new beginnings, the laughter between them a testament to resilience and the beauty of second chances. Evelyn's journey was far from over, but she had found what she sought: peace within, a heart open to love, and a future bright with possibility. The following weeks in Bath passed with a gentle rhythm that Evelyn had come to cherish. The warmth of the community, the tranquility of her surroundings, and the purposeful work she engaged in created a sense of balance she had long sought. Yet, even as her new life blossomed, echoes of the past occasionally stirred within her. One crisp morning, Evelyn received a call that stirred a mix of emotions. It was from David. His voice carried hesitation and a hint of vulnerability she hadn't heard in years. He asked if they could meet, to talk like they used to. Evelyn paused, feeling the weight of memories and the fragile thread of possibility. After careful thought, she agreed. They arranged to meet at a small cafe nestled along the River Avon, a place neither had visited before but both found quietly inviting. The air was fresh, the gentle murmur of the river mingling with the soft clinking of cups and quiet conversations. When David arrived, his expression was tentative, eyes searching for signs of forgiveness. Evelyn greeted him with a calm smile, the kind that comes from a place of understanding rather than expectation. They settled into their seats, the silence between them filled with unspoken histories. David began by acknowledging the mistakes he had made, the pain he caused, and the lost time. He spoke of regret and the longing to heal, not just for his sake, but for the family they once were. Evelyn listened, her heart touched but guarded. She understood the complexity of forgiveness. It was a path, not a destination. They talked about Emma's letter, the small signs of change, and the possibility of rebuilding connections, however fragile. Evelyn shared her own journey, the decisions she made, the strength she found in standing up for herself, and the life she was creating beyond the shadows of their past. As hours passed, walls began to lower, and laughter tentatively returned. They reminisced about happier times, shared stories of Robert, and even discussed plans for future visits, cautious but hopeful steps toward reconciliation. Leaving the cafe, Evelyn felt a renewed sense of peace. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but this meeting was a testament to resilience and the enduring power of family, however imperfect it might be. Back at home, Evelyn poured herself a cup of tea, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and lavender. She felt a quiet joy, not from the resolution of all conflicts, but from the courage to face them with grace. Her life in Bath continued to unfold beautifully. She nurtured friendships, pursued new hobbies, and embraced every moment with gratitude. The past no longer defined her. It was simply a chapter in the rich story of her life. Evelyn knew that true healing was ongoing, a dance between holding on and letting go, between remembering and moving forward. And with each passing day, she walked that dance with dignity and hope, ready for whatever the future held. If you're still watching, comment one so I know you're still with me. After that heartfelt meeting by the river, Evelyn's days took on a new rhythm, a delicate balance between reflection and renewal. The past was no longer a shadow lurking behind her, but a teacher whose lessons she carried forward with grace. Her mornings often began with quiet walks along Bath's cobblestone streets, where the scent of blooming flowers mingled with the fresh river breeze. She found comfort in these small rituals, a reminder that life continued to unfold in its own time and way. Evelyn dedicated much of her time to the community projects she had envisioned, volunteering at the local library, organizing workshops for underprivileged youth, and spearheading initiatives to promote literacy and education. These efforts filled her with a sense of purpose, reconnecting her to the values Robert had cherished. One afternoon, she received an unexpected invitation to speak at a community gathering about resilience and the power of forgiveness. Nervous but determined, Evelyn accepted. The day of the event arrived, and she stood before a room filled with attentive faces, some familiar, others strangers, all eager to hear her story. She spoke openly about her journey, the pain of estrangement, the courage it took to reclaim her dignity, and the healing found through forgiveness and self-love. Her voice, steady and warm, carried the weight of experience and the lightness of newfound freedom. The audience responded with empathy, some wiping away tears, others nodding in understanding. Evelyn realized that her story was not just hers alone, but a beacon for many navigating their own struggles with family and identity. As days turned into weeks, Evelyn noticed subtle changes in her relationship with David. Their conversations, though still cautious, became more frequent and genuine. He expressed sincere efforts to understand and respect her boundaries, signaling a slow but hopeful mending of bridges. Meanwhile, Emma began to visit more often, her presence a balm to Evelyn's heart. They shared stories, laughter, and sometimes silence, building a connection grounded in honesty and mutual respect. Life in Bath blossomed into a tapestry of moments both ordinary and extraordinary. Evelyn found joy in simple pleasures, a good book by the fire, an afternoon tea with Grace, a stroll through the nearby botanical gardens. She embraced this chapter with an open heart, grateful for the chance to write her own narrative. Yet, Evelyn never forgot the lessons learned. She remained vigilant, protecting her peace while remaining open to love in its many forms. Her journey was ongoing, a testament to resilience, hope, and the transformative power of choosing oneself. As spring turned to summer, Evelyn's home filled with light and laughter once more, not from the echoes of past pain, but from the warmth of genuine connection and self-acceptance. She had found her voice, her strength, and above all, her peace. As summer deepened, Evelyn's life blossomed in ways she had never imagined possible. Her days were filled with meaningful work, new friendships, and a sense of peace that had long eluded her. The wounds of the past, while still present, no longer defined her. They had become a foundation for growth. One sunny morning, Evelyn and Grace decided to organize a community event celebrating resilience and the power of second chances. They invited local residents, volunteers, and even some of Evelyn's old students. The event was held in the charming town square of Bath, decorated with flowers and banners proclaiming hope and renewal. Evelyn stood before the crowd, her voice calm but passionate, as she shared her story once more, not as a tale of sorrow, but as a testament to the strength found in forgiveness and self-respect. The audience was moved, many coming forward to express gratitude and share their own experiences of healing. Amid the gathering, Evelyn noticed a familiar figure approaching. It was David. He arrived alone, looking different, more humble, more sincere. After the event, he approached Evelyn with cautious steps, extending a hand not just in greeting but as a symbol of willingness to rebuild. Their conversation was tentative at first, filled with apologies and honest admissions. David confessed the regrets he carried and the ways in which he had allowed pride and fear to cloud his love for his mother. Evelyn listened, recognizing the genuine remorse in his words, but also aware that trust would need to be earned over time. In the following weeks, small but significant changes unfolded. David began visiting more regularly, not with demands or expectations, but with a desire to reconnect. He participated in community projects alongside Evelyn, even volunteering at the library where she had become a familiar face. Emma and Luke also grew closer to their grandmother, joining in family dinners and outings. The walls that had once separated them were slowly coming down, brick by brick, replaced by conversations, laughter, and shared memories. Despite these hopeful developments, Evelyn remained cautious. She understood the fragility of reconciliation and the importance of maintaining boundaries to protect her well-being. She continued to prioritize her passions and friendships, ensuring her identity was not solely defined by family ties. One afternoon, as Evelyn and Grace sat sipping tea in the garden, Evelyn reflected aloud on the journey she had traveled. "It's funny," she mused, "how sometimes the hardest roads lead to the most beautiful destinations." Grace smiled, her eyes shining with warmth. "You've come so far, Evelyn. Your courage has inspired many, including me." The days grew warmer, and Evelyn's heart felt lighter. She had discovered that love could be reclaimed, not by forgetting the past, but by embracing it with compassion and strength. The legacy she had fought to protect was no longer just about money or property, it was about the bonds that truly mattered. As the sun set over Bath, casting golden hues across the rooftops, Evelyn stood on her balcony, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. She was no longer the woman defined by loss and betrayal, but a beacon of hope, resilience, and renewal. The weeks that followed marked a profound turning point in Evelyn's life. The fragile threads of reconciliation with David and his family, though tentative, had been woven, but Evelyn knew the road ahead would not be without challenges. She was prepared for that, having reclaimed her voice and established her boundaries. One afternoon, Evelyn received an unexpected invitation to a local charity gala, an event honoring community leaders who had made significant contributions to social causes. Grace encouraged her to attend, reminding her of the importance of celebrating the new chapter she was writing, not only for herself but as an inspiration for others. At the gala, Evelyn found herself surrounded by people who admired her resilience and spirit. She was invited to speak, and with a calm yet powerful voice, she shared her journey, the pain of rejection, the strength to say no, and the power of forgiveness that does not mean forgetting but freeing oneself. Her speech resonated deeply with the audience. Many approached her afterward, sharing stories of their own struggles and triumphs. Evelyn felt a deep sense of connection, realizing she was no longer isolated but part of a vibrant community. Meanwhile, her relationship with David continued to improve slowly but steadily. He had started attending therapy sessions to address his own shortcomings and had become more present and attentive to the family. Evelyn, while cautious, allowed herself to hope that this time, change might be lasting. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner at Evelyn's new home in Bath, the atmosphere was markedly different. Laughter echoed through the rooms, stories were shared, and even Emma and Luke seemed genuinely engaged. It was not perfect, but it was real. After dinner, Evelyn and David had a quiet moment on the porch. David expressed his gratitude for Evelyn's patience and forgiveness, and his commitment to rebuilding trust. Evelyn acknowledged the distance they still needed to cross, but felt hopeful. Back inside, Grace smiled knowingly. "Look at you, Evelyn. From darkness to light." Evelyn looked out at the stars above Bath, feeling a peaceful satisfaction. She had fought for her dignity and reclaimed her life. The scars of the past were still there, but they no longer held her captive. She knew life would continue with its ups and downs, but Evelyn was ready to embrace each day with courage, love, and a heart open to new possibilities. Her story is not just about loss or betrayal, it is about the courage to reclaim dignity, the power to forgive, and the strength to begin again. Evelyn's journey shows us that forgiveness is not forgetting the wounds or excusing the pain, but a sacred gift we give ourselves to find peace and freedom. In the Christian faith, forgiveness is a path to healing, echoing the teaching that to forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. Evelyn embraced this truth, not by erasing the past, but by choosing to release anger and bitterness, opening her heart to hope and renewal. Her story reminds us that no matter how deep the hurt, no matter how long the silence, there is always a chance to heal if we have the courage to say, "I am here," to stand up for ourselves, and to find love within before seeking it from others. As Evelyn's story comes to a close, we invite you to reflect on your own journey. Have you been holding on to pain that no longer serves you? Is there someone you need to forgive? not for their sake, but to free your own heart? Remember, you are not alone. Your story matters. If Evelyn's journey touched your heart, please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your voice can be a light for someone else walking a similar path. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that celebrate resilience, hope, and the enduring power of forgiveness. Thank you for listening to her story. A story of courage, love, and new beginnings.